Welcome to the first session of today. We have two very interesting plenary talks. My online co-chair is Cynthia. She was on the screen a while ago. And after each talk, she will handle the on-site or online questions first, and then we do the on-site questions here. We start with a talk about ethical AI in citizen science. And we welcome Laura Trouille. I hope I pronounce it well. She works for the Adler Planetarium and Zooniverse. Laura.
Excellent. First, to check the audio, can you all hear me okay? I'll have to get a response from somebody somewhere. If somebody could type into the chat, just making sure you can hear me. Yes, okay, I see a response. Wonderful. Well, I'm so appreciative to join you all. I'm the VP of Science Engagement at the Adler Planetarium, so I'm based in Chicago. I would have loved to be in person with you. And I'm also the PI for Zooniverse. So this talk is coming in the context of a platform for online citizen science. Citizen science is the act of engaging the public in meaningful ways in real research. So now I have to learn how to proceed to the next slide. There we go. Okay, so I'll first give a quick sense for what Zooniverse is, or just the context for this talk. And then I'll go into an AI ethics framework that we've put together. I'll talk about why we created it and what the goals are, what purpose it's trying to serve. So Zooniverse, this online platform for citizen science or people-powered research, the goals are twofold: advance research and discovery, and engage the public in meaningful ways in real research. There are many different projects and platforms that do this type of work, whether it's in-person monitoring of water that you might have done with your local communities, or the iNaturalist mobile app that's a way to, when you see an interesting plant or animal in your surroundings, you take a picture of it and it goes into a global online database. And everything in between. In the US, citizenscience.gov, this website that it lists over 500 different citizen science opportunities. For Zooniverse, our setup is where we have projects across the disciplines, everything from classifying galaxies to tagging penguins to transcribing historic documents to marking the structure of cells for cancer research. At any time, there's about 60 to 70 active projects. And because this is an astronomy community, I'll focus today in sharing some of the examples from astronomy, which make up about half of the active projects. And so the platform and the projects all started with a first project back in 2007, a project called Galaxy Zoo. And this was a small team of astronomers. They had, as a community, we had the Million Galaxy data set of the Sloan Digital Sky Survey. And for researchers studying galaxies, we just wanted to be able to tackle those big questions about galaxy evolution. But first, you had to classify every single galaxy in order to use it as a useful data set. So in 2007, they thought, well, let's harness the power of the crowd. Let's see if we can engage non-experts in the classification tasks that really 5-year-olds to 95-year-olds can do. You're just looking for patterns in the data. So in the first hours, they were getting 50,000 classifications an hour. In the first year, 100,000 or so people participated, contributed millions of classifications, and helped unlock this data set that otherwise would have taken much, much longer, many years more, for that small research team to unlock. So it was driven by research and discovery. Can we efficiently, quickly unlock data? Galaxy Zoo was the first project. Since then, we've launched over 500 projects. Another astronomy project, just to showcase the different types, this one is showing a marking task. So same general idea. It's an image on the left and some kind of task described on the right. Here it's the Planet 4 project looking at the surface of Mars and looking for structures in the topography. As another example, there's projects in heliophysics. So this one is looking at the interface between the sun's solar winds and the Earth's magnetic field. I'm showing this one because online citizen science, you can have quite complex data that somebody is meant to look at and try to analyze, and then a simple multiple choice question is really what's being asked here. And then again, as part of this whirlwind tour of what the platform provides, it's a browser-based experience. You can do image or audio files or video clips that need some kind of marking on them. And you can also have it on a mobile app. So like if you, for ecology projects, there's a great project where it's like, is there a sea lion in this image or not? And you swipe left or right, yes or no, depending. So again, just for the context of it, Zooniverse by the numbers. So the first project was Galaxy Zoo in 2007. As a platform, we really started in 2009. We had a few projects by then. Since then, we've launched over 500 projects. There are 3 million people around the world. We just reached that milestone a couple weeks ago, who are registered participants in the different projects. And to date, there have been 20 million hours kind of contributed to this platform. And we're on track this summer to reach 1 billion classifications. It's actually going to be a little bit sooner than August. It's looking like end of June. These projects, the research and discovery aspect, they've led to over 500 peer-reviewed publications and in astronomy, discoveries of like 4-star systems with planets around it. Those in Planet Hunters, it was because you had human eyes looking at the data and saying, oh, there's something unusual there. Or in Galaxy Zoo, there's been over 50 different publications from that project and transformative discoveries like the green pea galaxies or Hanny's Vorup, or things that are serendipitous discoveries, things that the team wasn't looking for. But again, having so many eyes on the data, you find the unusual, the weird. The platform has just had tremendous reach and is all made possible because of all these participants engaging in the effort. In any given month, we have about 10 million classifications coming through. So this is all made possible because of the participants and because there's a project builder platform that allowed us to scale in the sense that before 2015, when this platform launched, as a small team of web developers, software engineers, we would build 2 to 3 projects a year. They'd be custom built, a lot of time, a lot of people power. 2015, we were able to launch this project builder platform. It's simple browser-based interface, and you immediately see what the project looks like as you're building it. And then we have a whole internal and then a beta review process with our participants. 70,000 of them help review a project before it officially launches to the whole community. Zooniverse.org/lab is the URL for that. And if you happen to be sitting on a data set where you find yourself doing the same classification task over and over, you might consider it. It's a free tool that we've been able to make available. And it's all possible because of so many different federal funding and private foundations that have supported the platform and made it possible. So the project builder was a game changer, and the investments that made that possible. And then the other key aspect of why we can be at the scale that we're at is because of the partnerships. So the core team is the Adler Planetarium, where I'm based as PI, and a team of web developers. The University of Oxford with Chris Lintott, who's one of the co-founders, alongside Lucy Fortson, another of the co-founders who is at the University of Minnesota. And then we partner with over 150 different research institutions worldwide. So each project is led by a different research team, and they're at all these different kinds of institutions, from universities to community colleges to zoos and aquariums and libraries and archives and museums, and federal agencies like the NOAA and NASA and EPA. And the vast majority of the projects are led by teams either in the US or in the UK. This year, I've been so appreciative of a group, we call them the research ambassadors, but a group of people in different regions around the world that I've connected with through the International Astronomical Union's Office of Astronomy for Development. And we did a Train the Trainer program where I trained people in each of these regions who are connected to research communities, whether it's in Africa or in Southeast Asia or in South America. And then we're trying to build up just the awareness that this free infrastructure exists. It's meant to be used to unlock data for research and engage the public meaningfully in your research works. And so the idea is to try to grow awareness and use beyond the US, UK. Because our global community of participants, the 3 million people around the world, about half are US based, 20% are in the UK, but then 30% are spread all over the world, 120 different countries. And so we want that community of participants and the community of researchers to know about each other and for everybody to have access to this tool and infrastructure. So now that was just to give a background and overview, a sense for what the platform is and citizen science in general, what the goals are. So now into the AI side of things. So this slide is just capturing the fact that from the beginning, even before machine learning tools were integrated, it was about large data sets and an analysis gap, trying to get to the end goal of data that's unlocked so you can do the analyses, and the small teams of researchers that tend to be working on a particular project. And so as data sets continue to get bigger, like Rubin Observatory, 40 terabytes of data every night, it's really through the combination of humans and machines together that we're going to be able to best take advantage of these data. And crowdsourcing is a really critical tool in our toolkit of how to do this well. There was a really wonderful special collection of articles that came out just last year through the Citizen Science Journal, the Journal of Theory and Practice. This was led by Lucy Fortson as a lead editor and a whole community of people who worked on the articles. And this is an infographic just showcasing all the different ways that within citizen science, machine learning is being integrated, whether it's the simplest version where a crowdsourced project might create a training set, which then you use to train up a model to then run through the rest of the data. Many projects have sort of more of a human in the loop flow where you might have a machine model run through a set of the data, and then at the same time or in a complementary way, you also have human classifications coming through on that data. There's a great example from our Supernova Hunters project where the machine model was really able to do a very complete sample, very pure sample, but the human eyes were able to catch the brighter supernova and the more rare supernova. And so it was the combination of the human and machine classifications together that gave you the most complete and pure sample of supernova overall. There's also AI and machine learning in citizen science in the way there's verification tasks that people have been integrating into projects where a machine model might go through but has a low confidence in the result. And so then you can, like in Zooniverse, we have a thing called correct a machine, where the machine answer for a drawing task, for example, is given on the subject, and then the volunteers are editing that machine-generated response to give the best possible end result. So there's many, many different flows of AI and machine learning. And again, this talk is about the AI framework that we've come up with, because especially, but even if you didn't have a public engaged in the research that you were doing, but if you were a federally funded project or public funded in some way, we have a responsibility towards the public in responsible AI practices and transparent processes and open communication. This slide is pulling from across the Zooniverse projects just to showcase what the current type of communication is between project leads, the researchers leading the effort, and the participants. And it's a really wide range. So the communication tends to happen either in the project landing page or in the about pages. So every Zooniverse project, you have to describe what the research is about, what you're trying to, what your goals are, what your methodology is. So that's in the about research page. There's a team page that describes who's running the project, results pages, FAQs, etc. And so these are pulled from the about pages where it was describing. So the first example in the upper and the top is what's quite common in the platform right now is just a reference to we're using these data to train a machine model. There's no real descriptive text about what that means. The language is not particularly accessible or illuminating in terms of what does it really mean that machine learning is happening here. An example from the LIGO related project gives a general description of what they're doing, a little bit more detail. There was some thought in terms of the accessibility of the language. But this is one project of around 70 active projects. And definitely the language they use here, there's no norms within our platform of how to use terminology, what kind of terminology to use. The third example on the right goes into incredible detail, but you'll see in some of the writing about the specific models they're using, the specific, like they reference the Amazon S3 bucket. There's certain details that are just at a level that's not particularly accessible, especially they haven't given even an accessible summary before they go into those details. And so this is nothing, it's not a negative for each of these projects. It's really a aspect about how our platform is approaching this idea, and that we have not to date done a concerted effort to support our research teams in how to communicate about AI with their participants, nor anything to provide a framework or recommendations on best practices around responsible AI in our platform. It is heartening, and also it was important to us in our efforts to create a framework that some teams are really way out front in terms of very thoughtful approaches. So one is there's a project on the humanities side of our platform led by a team called the Citizen Readers. And there they have a very publicly accessible, very clear language about the use of AI within their platform, the downstream data use constraints that they've placed, the clarity in language about which workflows, meaning there's some parts of their project that have AI integrated into it and some parts where it is not, and for purposeful specific reasons. The example on the right is a responsible use of machine learning in the Kilonova Seekers project, where the team, again, has gone into good detail of what they're doing, what their goals are, and what their own boundary conditions and ethical practices are that they've applied to their project that they want to share clearly with their participants. So we have a huge range within our platform, and I think I forgot to note about a third of our projects use machine learning in some way within their project efforts, and about 2/3 at this time don't, and that fraction continues to shift towards more having some kind of machine learning. So the other was in each project has a discussion forum as well as a Zooniverse-wide discussion forum. We refer to these as our talk forums. So in talk, starting particularly in 2023, but even beforehand, we were starting to see more posts from our participants about questions about machine learning use. Some of them very much excited about it, feeling like they were part of cutting edge discovery and wanting to know more about how the machine learning works. Others in which there was similar questions that we see across society about the concerns of AI taking jobs. In this case, the concern of AI taking over what the participants are doing in the platform and finding so meaningful. And so questions of agency and choice for participants of whether a project has AI or not, whether it's they know whether a project has it or not, and what they can do in terms of their own choice as participants. So this, the growing use of AI within Zooniverse projects, as well as participant discussions and discourse and dialogue and talk, and as a platform, also our own maturity and thinking around AI led us to pursuing the development of our first Zooniverse AI ML ethics framework and set of recommendations. And so we're very grateful to the Kavli Foundation to support a year-long effort in which first we, or interlaced, was sending out surveys to our full participant community and getting thousands of responses to those surveys. And then 4 workshops that were paired with internal working sessions with a smaller team, including our Zooniverse leadership group. And each workshop focused on a particular topic area, first on transparency and communication best practices, then on ethical approaches in general to machine learning and AI in research, then looking at deepening contextual understanding, because there are some very specific questions that are, discipline to discipline, like in the humanities, things that those teams were thinking about versus in astronomy versus ecology. And then the last of the sessions was around downstream data use and protections. The workshops included 60 different people overall, from computer scientists, machine learning experts, science communication experts, citizen science project leads in Zooniverse, but also other platforms, Zooniverse participants, researchers leading Zooniverse projects, data license experts, and ethicists. And all of that has led to the development of a set of recommendations. And and I should note, the team was led by Dr. Samantha Blicken, who's Zooniverse director and humanities lead. And we've always benefited in our platform of having the cross-disciplinary expertise, but having this effort led by a humanist, thinking about it from that lens, and then working with our researchers across all the disciplines was really critical. Key deliverables were, we have an article that we just submitted to the Citizen Science Theory and Practice Journal that just lays out the work, the background effort, and the framework itself and the recommendations that emerged. The second key deliverable is here we go. The first was actually creating the AI ethics framework. The second key deliverable is the article we just submitted. And then the third is just different presentations and conferences and workshop efforts that we're carrying out, so that what we're trying to learn within Zooniverse, this version 1.0 of the framework we're putting out, we know we're going to continue to refine it. This is a very quickly moving landscape. And so we want to talk with as many people as possible who might be doing similar efforts or thinking about similar questions, so that also selfishly it can feed back and continue to help us refine and improve what we're providing within our platform. But in general, AI has been so transformative across all the research, but including in citizen science. And so as a field, we're trying to grow our knowledge and best practices around responsible AI practices. So what I'm going to show next is I'm going to talk through the recommendations first for our platform and then for the projects. What's really quite helpful is to see the key principles that are guiding this work. So first is just building transparency into platform governance, project development, just everything about the process. Transparency within our platform towards the researchers, and transparency between the projects and the participants. There's a guiding principle around agency and consent for participants. As long as if they can know how machine learning is being used, there are participants who choose to only partake in projects that don't have machine learning integrated into it. It's part of their choices for all sorts of reasons. And so we want to be respectful of that. And then there are participants who are really motivated by wanting to be at that intersection. And so again, agency and consent. Even within a given project, you might have a workflow where it's a verification task, for example, with the AI, but in another workflow where you're just doing the classification task directly. Teams are starting to play around with multiple approaches, trying to understand what the participants want and need and have that real dialogue going on. There's the principle around accountability. And having clear guidelines and talking about how we support teams in being compliant with those recommendations. There's also very much an understanding, if you're a researcher in the audience who's running a citizen science project, just the amount of work that goes into running a project and capacity considerations. So trying to think about what is going to be feasible for a researcher, also thinking about the tensions that can exist between complying with responsible AI practices while also being able to carry out your research to the fullest and most efficient extent. In citizen science, there is a balance, or there are key questions that a team talks through in terms of what their goals are and whether crowdsourcing is the right approach for the goals that they have in the timeline that they're trying to pursue. And then there's principles and underlying goals around creating space for feedback or responsiveness between us as a platform, researchers' needs, and the participants. And then the last one is just, there's a lot of and a growing literature around responsible AI practices. And so trying to have our platform stay up to date and continuing to improve upon our foundations by being engaged with the field and the experts in this area. So a few key recommendations for us as a platform were to create a dedicated page within our website where we have a kind of standardized mode of describing different machine learning approaches and practices. Because part of it with accessibility and communication with the public, we've been learning, is just if one project is using machine learning approach but talks about it in one way, and then another project is using the exact same machine learning approach but talks about it in a different way, it means that the participants have to learn both sets of terminologies and languages rather than for us as a platform to provide some kind of a topology, a foundational guidance on here's the type of language and some templatized phrases and some best practices just purely in communication. And then we are incorporating what I'll share in a moment about project recommendations into our internal project review process, so that from the start, project researchers know here are the responsible AI practices that this platform is putting forth. Here's from the start the types of things that they should be thinking about, the types of questions they should be talking about within their team if they haven't already. And then the last is just doing an annual review of our policies by the leadership team. So some of the recommendations, now these that I'm going to share are works in progress, meaning we're alpha testing right now with a set of projects that are part of the Sky AI Astro Institute that we're involved in. So 3 different projects are currently alpha testing these recommendations, and then later this summer we'll be rolling them out across our platform. So I just wanted to give that caveat before sharing. So the first is based on the key principles I shared previously. Are there opportunities to really enable participant choice? Can a participant know this workflow uses machine learning in this way, and by participating, that's their agency? Or by not participating or choosing a different project, that's where agency comes in. There's the recommendation around showing where, when, and why machine learning is incorporated into a project. And again, having like shared language, public accessible language about that. That's part of what we're providing to our project teams to help with that. There's also within our platform straightforward ways at the kind of in the titles of a workflow to make clear this has machine learning or not. There's a really tricky one is considering the consequences of optimization. So machine learning right now in ecology projects, for example, they're really good at saying, is there an animal here or not? And some are quite good at particular species. And so then you end up having workflows for only the harder species or in the humanities projects, transcription of only the hardest of texts. And so here you have to think about, okay, if you're going to do that, where you're having machine learning do the simpler of things, and you're engaging a broad, diverse public in your project, then thinking about, are there training tasks that can help on-ramp people, or different ways to mitigate the impacts of this optimization of use of AI. Related to that is if you're doing a subset of an effort because AI is helping with the rest of it, how can you retain the broader context for your participant? Like, can you give them access to the full document so they can see the broader context and then come back to the subtask that they're being asked to do, or other ways of retaining context? Then the next two are just about follow-up and feedback. So here, the recommendation around making sure, and this is also a recommendation in general for whenever crowdsourcing is used, the project team commits to sharing back, these are the results of the effort. So same in terms of what is the AI machine learning impacts and results of this effort. And creating pathways for feedback from participants to project teams, from project teams back to participants, through the discussion forums or other means. And then addressing quality is really critical when you're feeding back to your participants about the results, talking openly about where the machine models are still failing, where human effort is still needed, and vice versa. When a machine model is really successful, like in another of the Supernova Hunters projects, the machine then, after the first year of the project, all that training data trained up a really good machine model, which was then able to run through the remaining data. And so then it's talking to participants about this, celebrating that success, but then also giving them opportunities for other projects to participate in, and acknowledging from the start that might be one of the outcomes of this project, is that the effort that was done by human participants is now being run with a machine model with the research team. And then there will continue to be new projects coming into the platform. And so what is that cycle of a project potentially ending and new projects coming in, and the flow there? And the last of the recommendations for project teams is...
Laura, just as a heads up, we only have 1 minute left.
Yes, so I'm gonna right after this, I'll open it up to questions. Just considering when you're talking about how you plan to use a machine learning model or AI tool in your project, there is the reality that when you start an effort, you never quite know which direction it's going to go. And so being very open about the future uses of your data, what kind of licenses you're putting on your data, what kind of downstream data protections you're putting, but also just that acknowledgement of part of the process of science is that data, once you put it out there, once you publish, it continues to have life, and participants building knowledge about that downstream data use is really critical. And the last is just consider both the opportunities and risks of using AI in a crowdsourced research project. So there, just going back to the deliverables of this effort, was creating an AI ethics framework with a set of recommendations, which we're rolling out this summer, submitting the article that runs through the whole project, and then meeting people through conferences like this. So thank you so much. I welcome questions or thoughts or comments. Oh, I'm not able to hear if there was a question.
Sorry, Marieke, the audio in the room is not, we're not hearing you.
Okay, do you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
My question was, are there any online questions?
Yes, there was a question. Let me go look for it. So,
I can start.
Yes.
Oh, just seeing Cesar, the last of the posts. It could also be a chance for citizens to learn and familiarize, learn with AI with hands-on activities for more conscious usage. I just wanted to say yes to that comment, and the opportunities through citizen science for just literacy development, creating it's a relatively safe space to talk about research and AI with the public where they're directly involved already and already have sort of a stake in it. And then trying to build understanding of how researchers use it, what we struggle with in terms of our own, thinking about the environmental impacts of machine models, et cetera, and being in dialogue with our participants. It's been really powerful, and just I see a lot of potential there in terms of learning, public learning.
We have another question from Samir Durde. He says, citizen science is one area where the citizens could have upper hand and we not allow AI to come in. What do you think about that?
Yes, so there are projects that are purposely choosing that. And it's interesting as a platform where we're providing infrastructure. So there's an environmental sustainability project, for example, on our platform that very openly in that same About Research page says, we know that AI tools could be used for this project, but we are purposely engaging a community of people in doing the classifications because we have these additional goals. We want to unlock the data, and we know through the crowd we can do it. We could do that with AI, but we're choosing to do it with the public because we also have these citizen science societal goals around learning, around awareness building, around engaging a local community because it's working with particular parks in a regional area. And so as a platform, we're very supportive of that as well. If the research team plus their community of participants say, you know what, we know the AI tools exist, but we're choosing not to use. And that's something that's going to be fascinating as teams continue and as we see as society really struggling with and reckoning with AI tools. What can we learn from projects like that? I will note as a platform, our recommendations would not be a blanket no use of AI in our platform, because that's not where our whole research community is going either at this time. Like as astronomers with Rubin Observatory, for example, and 40 terabytes of data every night, it's not going to be possible to do all the discoveries and use, actually find all the things that those data are waiting for us to learn about our universe without that combination of machine and human in the loop.
We have another question, but maybe we can take one from on-site people. Do you have, Marieke?
I see 3 hands, so we can have that in 5 minutes.
You were first, though. Oh, okay. So in the beginning, you stressed the dual purpose of Zooniverse about helping advancing research and science communication. But isn't the inclusion of the machine learning layer automatically skewing the purpose towards research progress rather than learning? I'm asking that because I was quite struck by your example that you showed about evaluating transcripts of a computer from diaries of field workers. And I would say that I would feel that I'm not doing as much learning on the actual science as I would be doing when I'm classifying galaxies myself, first person. So yeah, I was wondering what your thoughts on that are. Thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate all of these questions. There's a few different ways to answer. One part of the answer is machine learning is also used for participant learning in some projects. So Gravity Spy is a good example where there's a machine learning algorithm that's gone through all the data from the LIGO detectors, trying to see different noise types that are in the system. The overall goal of the project is for the crowd plus the machine models to identify new glitch types, and then for engineers on the ground at the detectors to remove them from the system. So the project is set up where machine model passes through the data and then is actually sending to participants images where they know that's going to help them most in their learning. So the machine has already identified, I think it's this type. And so it's sort of a just-in-time learning system that's structured as part of the training, and it's driven by machine in that sense. And then as a participant sort of grows in their knowledge, then it's a kind of a movement of role, and then it's really the humans who are ultimately identifying these new glitch types that haven't yet been found in the system. So there's it's interesting when a project has that kind of flow between learning for human sake and then learning for the research and discovery in combo with the machine. The other is, yes, there's some really good research articles about when you have machine recommendations, it can reduce the amount of learning that participants do. I forget if it was iNaturalist or eBird, one of those bird acoustic platforms. They did a study where an experiment where a machine label was given, and versus another where the participant wasn't given the label from the start. And there was significantly more learning that happened in that latter case because the participant, the human, then was doing a lot more research and digging around and trying to find, and it allowed for the time for that learning to occur. And so in the Zooniverse case, where it plays out is, the recommendation around providing context. So for us, that is one way in which with a project that's going to have machine learning integrated, if it's reducing the amount of focus that the participant is narrowing in on, then we also are giving pathways to seeing the broader context for that image, say the entire page or the several pages surrounding it, rather than just their narrowed focus. So it's a way of trying to balance the learning that happens and the unlocking of data that happens. But the shortest of answers could have just been it's sort of case by case, and there's nuance there that we're still learning as we go with each project and seeing what works and how it impacts the participants' experience, for sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
From Yerevan, hello. We have time for one last question and a very short answer, please.
Yes.
So who was next in line for the questions? She already did it online.